Hello, everyone. Marvin B. here with another episode of the Uncle Marv podcast. I'm here in what used to be sunny South Florida. Today is September 12th, the first Saturday of college football season. It is 81 with a real feel of 83 degrees. I am joined by two great guests that you're going to see in just a minute here. But without further ado, let's get ready for the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Uncle Marv podcast. I am your host, Marvin B. And as I mentioned in the preview, I am joined by two fellow satellite high gentlemen. And if you're watching across the screen from your left to my right, Chris Snyder and Craig McCarthy. Guys, how are you?
Doing great, Marvin.
All right. So, I know that, let's see, Craig, you're still here in Florida. So are you experiencing any of the wonderful rain today?
There's a monsoon right now. I had to set up an extra light because usually the light from the window is enough for video.
Nice.
Yeah, out of nowhere. And being like most Floridians, I'm used to tracking weather this time of year, but ever since the virus, I pay no attention whatsoever. Storms just appear out of nowhere, and I don't know they're coming.
Yeah, this one popped up about 5 p.m. yesterday. And so we were under a tropical storm warning all last night. So it's been fun. Snide, how about you?
It is a beautiful sunny day here in Fort Worth, Texas. It's probably 80 degrees. We got a little chilly earlier in the week, but they tell us it's going to be 90 tomorrow. So typical Texas weather. The tropical storm thing, we don't get a whole lot of that here, but I'll trade you in a New York minute because you can get out of the way of those things. We get tornadoes. So yeah, no warning at all. They just pop up. But beautiful day in Texas.
Yeah, we could get up to a 2-week notice. You probably at most get what?
We get the get in your closet and cover your head notice. That's pretty much what we get. But thankfully, knock on something, it hasn't happened in a while.
Does the city have sirens, Chris?
They do, yeah. Especially because I live in Fort Worth, and being a big city, we get the sirens. Absolutely.
Now, were you affected at all? I know that Hurricane Laura was way east of you, but I did hear some people in Houston that said that they had some stuff happen. So did it reach out to you guys as well?
No, Houston's about probably 180, 200 miles south of us. It was not affected at all here. Okay. It was messy down there, particularly Lake Charles, Louisiana. That neck of the woods got real funky. But here, all good.
All right. All right, gentlemen. So before we get going, I need to do a couple of announcements because for some people, it has been quite some time since they've seen me live, and I need to at least do a couple of updates. One of the updates is that something that I meant to try to do back in August was the run that Todd Shoemaker was going to do. And Todd Shoemaker was a guest on an earlier podcast. He was a college friend of mine who went through a lot of different stuff and basically was told many years ago he'd be dead, he wouldn't walk, he couldn't run, all that sort of stuff. Well, he all of a sudden started feeling really good earlier this year and started running again. and was on a quest to do 500 miles this year.
Wow.
And I was going to try to cover that as a news person, but that did not happen. But I did want to let everybody know that wanted to ask about him. He did complete his 500 miles. He completed it back on Friday, August 21st. And he completed it going from Good Samaritan Hospital in West Palm Beach up to the steps of Family Church, which is the old First Baptist Church of West Palm. So I wanted to update everybody that he did finish that 500 miles. He's actually going to be putting together another documentary about, I don't know if it's just that, but as soon as I get information on that, I will update everybody, and you can hear his story. And I thought I was going to announce for the Satellite High folks, we had to obviously cancel the reunion this year because of Rona. And I know that it was postponed till next year. And I thought that there was a date set. And I reached out to Miss Veltri, Tina Veltri, who is in charge of the reunion. I was trying to figure out which group to go to look, because I couldn't remember which satellite group had the announcements on it. So if either of you guys know if those dates have been set, or if where we can find the information, either of you guys know anything?
I swear I saw a date come out. Let me look on my calendar. But and cheers to Miss Veltri for organizing that thing.
Yeah, she does. She does a lot of work.
Oh yes, it is some work. Yes. So if anybody has that, or if anybody talks to Tina, I don't know if she doesn't get my messages because I got blocked or something, because I only have the Facebook thing. So I am struggling with communication. So I'm working on getting people's contact information, email, phone numbers, and stuff like that. I know that people go off the Facebook and then back on the Facebook, and then people don't use the messenger feature. So anybody out there that's listening and can get a message and wants to get me information so that I can help with the announcements, please let me know. Send an email to marvin@unclemarv.com. All right, that's it for announcements, guys. So how's life?
It occurs to me, you and I have not spoken since, check me on this, 1985.
Oh, you guys were both at the reunion
Can't be right.
5 years ago. Did you not hang out?
Well,
I don't think I was 5 years ago.
Well, I don't know. I know I've seen you, Craig, in the last decade a couple times.
I think 2 years ago, when no, it was 3 years ago, maybe, when I went to, there was a unofficial function at some restaurant on the water in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was a live band there. There was probably about 20 or so people that I recognized. There's probably 40 people there from not just our crew, but from that area.
Well, if you and I have spoken in the last several years, I would have remembered that, Marvin. I wouldn't. I've been looking forward to this conversation because it's been.
I feel like, because I have had the pleasure of speaking to both of you, I feel like I ought to hit mute and just sit back and let you two catch up. I'm good with that.
Well, you guys had dinner a few years ago, so tell me about that.
Lunch, I think. Well, it was great. I was flying.
Well, there's twice, and you were in briefly something on business, but you contacted me and we got together just for lunch, and it was marvelous. I was so happy that you thought to take this finite time that you have going from point A to point B to come see me, and it was just marvelous because I've got I don't know how deep to jump in. I've got fabulous memories of umpiring youth baseball with you, of the poker games at your house, or penny and nickel poker back in the day, and it was just so great to see you. And it's this is nice when I have reunions with people from the Army or from college as well. I really love when there's kind of a spontaneous discussion of faith. You and I talked at that lunch about our beliefs in faith, and that's that it's not for everybody, but Yeah, I have a really good memory of that. And then not too long after that, over on US 1 near where you um, near the bridge, I forget the name of the place where we got together. Dan and Kelly was there, and you were there. I got a
Squidlip?
Barry Mayhew was there as well.
Yeah.
Grill, maybe something like that. It was, yeah.
Grill at Squidlips or something? Is that?
I don't remember. It was a little bit more a little more high end than Squid Lips, if I remember right. It was a nice place. I dig the Squid Lips. As a Texan, I'm very proud to say that I have been to the Squid Lips in Melbourne and the one on the Cape. So yeah, that's that. I don't know whether that's something to be scorned for, but I like both places.
I see. I don't. I can't remember which is which. I know that my mom likes one, and we don't go to the other. But I'll have to figure that out when I get back up there at some point. So, Craig, here's the thing. So I've probably been to Orlando 20, 30 times over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I did not know you were there. And of course, as people are finding out through these shows, I didn't know where a lot of people were. So when I dropped off the map, I really dropped off and didn't know a lot of where things were. So I had a customer that was literally right downtown at Orange Ave. And we would go down there all the time. I'd end up at Church Street Station. I had customers in Deltona, some other places around there. So I've been up and out there around. So you've got your office there. Are you in downtown?
Well, you're looking at my office.
Well, I'm not talking about Deltona.
No, I literally do work from my home. I've got a very, very streamlined, very efficient practice. But yeah, when I do court appearances, it's generally at the juvenile court, which is on Michigan Street. But I'm 5 to 10 minutes from downtown at any given time, anyway. But it's an amazing thing. Living in Orlando, everybody passes through here at some point or another, and I'll see college friends and Army buddies and stuff on Facebook, with pictures in Orlando, and I used to get a little upset, and hey, how come we didn't get together? But it's not like that. When people plan a trip with their family or whatever, everything is scheduled out to the minute. I get it; it's not always easy. But yeah, everybody flows through Orlando one time or another.
All right. And Snyder, I will say this, not been through Fort Worth, but I've been through Dallas.
Not far away. It's a burb. It's right on up the street. So Next time you come through. I've actually moved since you and I last spoke, and I am in Fort Worth proper now. Before I was in Grapevine, and I was about 6 minutes from the DFW airport. But because I'm not very smart, I bought a new house during COVID, and because I'm really not smart, we're remodeling said house during COVID. So it's been an adventure the last few months.
You got a discount though, right?
You know what? My wife and I, we sometimes you just get a little bit fortunate, and we sold right and we bought right. So it worked out okay. The stars and moon aligned for this one.
Nothing wrong with that. So you bought a fixer upper?
No, we bought a house. Just to be candid about it, the house that we bought was remodeled in 2006. It's on a piece of property that has been residential since 1943. But when it was remodeled in 2006, we've come to find out since we bought it that it was remodeled by a guy that was single in probably his 30s or early 40s. And it looks like a guy house. And yes, we're guys, but there are just some things that needed to be changed. I think of Kelly Kimball, Moisand, who I see is watching this morning. Good morning, Kelly, and Karen and Becky, about the remodel, because this house had zero feminine touch to it. So the lovely Mrs. Snyder's been having a field day. All
elkheads or what?
No, well, okay. So the guy that lived here was an LSU graduate, and the home had, those little things that people. It is backwards. You're right, Craig. That they paint on the curb that are their alma maters. There were three on the curb that had my house number, and rest assured, my house is not so large that it needs three. It needs exactly one. The shelves and trim in the home were either brown or LSU gold, and I keep finding LSU things. The workbench in the garage has LSU painted on it. There's speakers dangling from the living room. There probably was a disco ball and mirrors at some point. That's been removed. It's a lovely home, and it's going to be really lovely in about 4 months when we get done with it.
Cool.
All right. So, hey, are you far from the Magnolia Farms people? Chip and Joanne?
The most famous people in Texas. About an hour. A little,
Okay.
Everybody you talk, Craig, to your point of everybody that comes through here. I've heard more people that come through that are headed down to Waco to go to Magnolia than they come right by where we live. And Kelly and Dan, their son is a student at Baylor, which
Mhm.
is right by Magnolia. So yeah, it's not far
Oh.
from here at all. So are you hypothesizing that perhaps Mrs. B will be making a run through here?
She would like to. She would like to. We had a trip that was scheduled for San Diego. That was supposed to happen. Actually, it was supposed to be happening now. That one of the vendors that I resell their phone service through my business, I won a competition at the end of last year, and so they were supposed to fly me out to, hang out at the mothership, and we go see Disneyland and all that stuff. So of course she's like, well, if we're not traveling there, can we travel someplace else? And I had to remind her that trip was paid for.
Well, we have a guest room. We'd love to have you come on. And my wife, while I have not been to Magnolia Gardens, she's an expert. She could give you the guided tour. So
okay.
I get the cupcakes she brings back. That's my exposure to Magnolia.
Well, speaking of Miss Moisan, I should go back and acknowledge you had mentioned people in the chat. So Kelly, along with Miss Lorenz, actually put a note in there that the class reunion for Satellite High School has been rescheduled July 16th through the 18th of 2021. And wait a minute, there's a website? SHS Class of 85 website. I didn't know we had one. So we got to get that. That's how bad we are. That's joy, oh joy. And somebody just messaged me. So let me see if this is, no, this is not Uncle Marv related. I'll ignore that. So thank you, Kelly and Karen. And just, looky here. On behalf of my good friend, Becky Beal Brunette, I am pleased to announce that she will be in an upcoming episode of the Uncle Marv podcast soon. So you all will get to learn the origin of that phrase. All right, that's all I got. What do you guys got?
What do I got?
Craig, please. We need to catch everybody up with what you're doing. I had the good fortune because Marv was really bored of doing this a few months back, so I got to catch everybody up on my happenings. Tell us what's going on in Craigland.
I've seen some of these episodes. We talked about that in the backstage, and some of them are a bit lengthy. I can tell you, I am daunted today. I'm waiting for what's coming. I thought to myself, Marvin B, as an adult, I think the one thing I've always wanted to tell you that when I moved to Satellite Beach and started 7th grade in Delora, I was the new guy. I was one of the new guys. And as a tangent, if you don't mind me over explaining a little bit, on the first day, first period class, 7th grade, I want to say that it was misspells English, but I could be wrong about that. But there were more students than there were desks in the classroom. So and that was fixed later. But they had a table near the door for the last ones in, and it just so happened that the people at this table were the new guys. It was me, Dan Moisan, Barry Mayhew. And I want to say, and someone who was not a new guy or gal, I think Dee Dee was at that table as well with us. And I always thought that was the funniest thing. Literally, the first two guys I met on my first class of my first day of 7th grade were all new to the town, and we were all friends all throughout. And I thought that was interesting. Anyway, that was a tangent. And what I wanted to say, so in those 6 years, Delora and Satellite, I was a new guy. I was very, very unsure of myself in a lot of ways. But I tried to set goals and I tried to meet them for myself. The one person in all that time who ever intimidated me, as a really intimidating rival, was Marvin B. It just, you were and always have been kind of. I mean, you're a good friend, and you always were, and a great guy to hang out with. But you always had this somewhat mythic status to me, and I mean that sincerely. I was intimidated by you.
In what
Because
way?
you had
We didn't
everything
play
going on.
sports together, did we?
What's that?
We didn't play sports together. How could I have intimidated you?
Well, we played on the same team in football. No, just that stuff. Like I had a list of things I had to do in order to get into the college that I wanted. And
Oh,
so whenever I was applying for some scholarship or an internship, I remember one in particular. I think you had a fellowship with Congressman Nelson.
Bill Nelson, yes.
Yeah. See, I was up for that, and yeah, I was always nervous when you were around because I needed to tick off some of these boxes, and there was Marvin all the time. So intimidated in that way. You were just a formidable guy.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that was a competition thing. I thought that they just selected me, so I didn't realize that for the Bill Nelson thing.
Yeah.
Now, here's the one thing you did get me. You were class president our senior year. You beat me, although I do have to qualify that I let Craig Kirby run my campaign because
I need to correct because Keenan will be upset, and it's easy to mix up. You and I ran for student body president.
Okay.
Keenan was the class president. For what it's worth.
All right.
I don't. Yeah.
Somewhere I've got a picture of you, Craig, and Dan. I've got a picture somewhere of you, Craig, and Dan dressed as pirates. That's a campaign poster. Why I have that 40 years later is a mystery to anybody, but I do. It's in my archives of stuff somewhere.
Because it's. I don't know. There's something special about it in the history of political advertising. I don't know. It worked. No, you know what it was? Oh gosh. It's good to keep a sense of humor about things. I had run for something. I think it was treasurer junior class. I don't know. I ran for something junior year, and Dan and I and a bunch of other people were on a field trip to Washington D.C. and we were at Mount Vernon, and I recalled that there were Japanese tourists in Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, and for some reason they thought that us collection of high school kids on a field trip was worthy of documenting. So people were asking us to be in pictures with them. I don't know. We were official young Americans or something. I don't know. So I ended up with this photograph somehow of me and Dan and this family who we didn't understand a word of each other's language, all hugging. They just, had their arms around us. And for some reason, so I had a flyer made of that said, if this Japanese family can trust Craig, so can you, which is horrible logic.
That's what you used to become student body president?
No, that was junior year.
Oh, okay.
And so, oh my gosh, I am so embarrassed. And so the next year, you stick with what works. You don't want to get too creative. Dan and I just took another picture. I think it was at Disney, Pirates of the Caribbean or something, just in pirate garb. And I forget what the slogan was for that. Thanks for hanging on to it.
We're gonna have to once I get the archives up with all the photos and stuff, that needs to be submitted. So
I will find it. It's in a box in this house somewhere.
Right. So we'll do that. So Craig, that can't be more embarrassing than being Brian Humphrey's shadow at the talent contest.
What am I not remembering? Enlighten me.
Because I was a shadow. That's why.
Oh.
So I don't even remember which year it was. All I remember is Brian Humphreys wanted to do this skit to the song "Me and My Shadow," and he wanted, he dressed in all white, me in all black, thinking that that would represent the shadow. And I need to get in touch with him. He used to live down here, so I had him spruce it up by adding the J. Giles band freeze frame music, so that every once in a while he's doing a song, the music would click to freeze frame and his shadow would start doing different stuff. So I thought that was pretty.
That's pretty inventive.
Yeah, glad they weren't taping stuff back then.
I think we all are for a number of reasons.
Yeah. You imagine
Well,
our
Craig,
life with social media?
No, I can't. I can't. And I've got, I've got my one son is 29. He seems to have navigated growing up in the digital age well. My other son just turned 13, and I mean, he's a great kid. He's a good kid. So I trust his online life and all, but it's amazing to me just how different it is. And yeah, we've had to have several talks about the internet being forever, and your 13-year-old brain isn't going to match the expectations of later you and other people. No, no, our lives would have been different if social media existed. Absolutely.
I certainly would not have been able to lie my way out of situations. Oh my! So, Side, so you moved. That's
I did.
in the last few months. So, what
Mhm.
what prompted that move?
So we lived in a cookie cutter neighborhood. It was a lovely home, but it was when my wife and I first got married. She owned a catering company in Dallas, and my business was predominantly in Fort Worth. And for those of you that don't hang out here, our home was right in the middle. So it was 12, 15 miles for her to get to her place, and it was 12, 15 miles for me to get to where I needed to go in the other direction. We have raised our grandson, and Craig actually helped me navigate my way through that years and years ago, since he was 13
Oh,
years old, and he graduated from high school this year. So we are free of the school system. Let's get on out. And sold her catering company, I think 5 years ago, maybe six. And she works from home now. And my office is in Fort Worth. I used to be on the road quite a bit in terms of just navigating from place to place that I sold, but I've since taken a new role within my company, and my office is in the south end of Fort Worth. So it was let's just get on the road and get a little closer to my office. We wanted some different space. We wanted to not look out our dining room and see the neighbor's laundry room. So it's been a blessing for sure.
All right. Did you upsize, downsize,
Same size.
more
I think the
land?
only difference is it's one story instead of two stories, and we have three bedrooms instead of four, which allows us for a giganormous living area, which is good as our family continues to expand. As the kids are having more kids, it just the rooms were crowding in on us. So, and we've got a little bit more of a backyard, a little bit more of a front yard, and it's a very quiet street. I mean, nobody drives up and down this street. It's which is nice. I don't hear airplanes every 3 minutes. It's been wonderful. I will share, and again, this is such a first world problem. Who in the world am I to complain about anything? And I mean this sincerely. I'm so blessed into our situation. But for 2 months, we moved in 2 months ago yesterday. We have been sequestered to one room. The bedroom is the only room we have access to because of the remodel going on. Between the paint, we haven't had a kitchen since the first week we lived here. They yanked out all the appliances. I managed to fry the microwave, making popcorn, so we even had a microwave. So we've been living in the bedroom and on the back porch, and I'm speaking to you from my wife's armoire office. The laptop is crammed into an armoire, and that's where she lives. But again, no
So,
complaints. But
is she
plastic
in the
zipper
room?
walls here.
Is she in the room listening to us, or did you kick her out to the patio?
I kicked her nowhere. She runs my life. No, she's on the back patio.
All right. And Craig, we saw your wife pass by there briefly.
did
What's
we?
your situation there?
My wife Tiffany and I, we've been married 22 years. As people tuning in probably know, this is my second marriage, because I married my high school sweetheart and our classmate Susan Parson, now Susan Laurel. Um, that's a broad question. What's your situation? I have a fantastic family. As I said, I got my older is a lawyer. I don't know why. I never encouraged him to become an attorney, but he's in Los Angeles doing entertainment law, intellectual property stuff. Um, he he works for himself. He's got his own shingle out, and he's having a lot of fun with that. And I've got my 13-year-old. So I've got this 16-year, two sons, one from each marriage, and a 16-year age difference between them. And it's just been delightful to be a dad again, and I enjoy both the kids. Tiffany is a wonderful woman, the great partner in my life. Susan and we used to be in touch fairly often when Dylan, our son, was younger, not so much anymore, but she's still beachside. Um, our families keep in touch. My parents keep in touch with her parents, and she's doing well as far as I can tell. And what else do you want to know?
I want to, Marvin, if I can interrupt for 2 seconds, because I kind of want to. This came up this morning when I was talking to my wife Ann about doing this today, and said, it's kind of a pleasant surprise that Craig's agreed to jump on here and visit with us. And she said, well, I've met Craig once or twice. And I said, he's probably the single most goal-oriented person I ever met. And that came up with something you said a few minutes ago. And Craig, I'd be making it up if I remembered what year you said this to me. But I remembered I was probably spending the night at your house on that really cool house that your family built. And you said, well, I'm going to go to West Point.
I'm still in it.
Which is amazing. I remember they built that house, and I'm going to go to West Point, and here's the 5 things I have to do. It was, I'm going to get this all mucked up, but a congressional recommendation. I remember that sports was part of it, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you started to play football. I also remember that you scored a touchdown on the only football game I missed my senior year because I had my wisdom teeth out. So,
oh, glory days.
But that's all true, correct? I mean, West Point was your MO. That's what you were going to do.
Well, and in hindsight, I wasn't dreadfully smart about it. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to explain this without it, because I've been asked about this in various contexts now and then. I was 14 years old when I decided that I was going to go to West Point. One, because I knew that I wanted to be educated and I wanted a good education. And 2, because for some reason, the things that I'd read, I mean, I had read Winston Churchill's, like multi-volume history of World War II. And I looked at my image of what American soldiers had done in liberating people and being the good guys. And it just appealed to me. I remember Reagan was president at the time, and whether people viewing this liked him or did not, he was somebody who kind of inspired a certain patriotism. And I wrote to him about getting into West Point. He wrote back, or someone in his office did. So yeah, it's all true. I decided. I recall very clear. I was 14 years old, and I was thinking, I got to decide what my future is, and that was it. Really great education, want to serve my country. I want to put on its uniform, and West Point, and of course the other service academies would accomplish that as well. I was stupid in that I applied to exactly one college. I didn't bother applying anywhere else. But yeah, I got accepted, and I had to get past Marvin B to tick off those things. Like I said, yeah. It's not a normal school. It was a strain on Susan and I. We became engaged my sophomore, what they call yearling year, up there. And she and I should say this. Obviously, our marriage ended at some point, but she was my rock, my tie to sanity in the normal world, and she was a great help to me. And of course, moved with me overseas to Berlin while the wall was still up, incidentally, and was willing to go live behind the Iron Curtain with me. So while our marriage lasted, it was a marvelous thing. And Susan, one of the great friends of my life. And now I'm rambling. I'm going to stop.
No, but okay. So the West Point, serve our country, wonderful military career. You and I have had the pleasure of speaking offline about how you were there during the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is fascinating to me. Yeah. Then you go, I think I'm going to go to law school and become a lawyer. I mean, you were so well thought out in all this. I went to Auburn University because they sent me a letter that said you're in, and my high school sweetheart Becky Rusum's sister was there, so I thought she might follow. I was not nearly as well planned out as you.
Those are excellent reasons for picking a college at 17 years old. They are. It's perfect. And Auburn's a beautiful, wonderful
college.
Yeah. And she did follow. It worked out. We had a beautiful relationship for about 3 years.
Yeah. So I should just recap it. I always feel self-conscious about this stuff because I have known and met and served with such extraordinary people that my relatively brief active duty career was nothing but a joy to me. I never had to be in combat. I never had to do anything heroic or more dangerous than the standard danger that comes with firing howitzers and training and all that. So I get self-conscious about it because I'm grateful that I got to serve. Everything about it, meeting Easterners, not only East Germans, but Czechs and Slovaks and Polish, and talking to people as they're coming out from under socialism and communism, and to be that kind of firsthand historian to talk to people about what life was like then, what they thought of the American Army being there, and all that. Nothing but a pleasure for me to have served, and I look back at that as the best time of my life. Certainly the most interesting.
Sorry, Chris. I was waiting to see if you had a follow-up question.
I feel like I'm hijacking your show. This is the Uncle Mars show, which is good because nobody would watch it if it was my show. So glad you're running this.
This is the deal.
By the way,
what was that?
I want to say, by the way, I'm flattered and thankful for your kind words, Chris. The law school thing was the opposite of organization and having goals. I was absolutely winging it. The Army was after the wall came down, after the Germany's reunified, Federal Republic and the Deutsche Democratic Republic, reunified, and after Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the first Iraq War was over. People may or may not recall there was a massive reduction in force. I mean, it was massive. A huge chunk of the military was downsized and reduced. And they were, a company grade officer in field artillery. I was a dime a dozen, and they were trying to get rid of people. And I was concerned about maybe being placed in that reduction of force and having to try to plan my future from Europe by mail, and I ran into a friend from college, and we were both in the Berlin Brigade together, and he just told me he was going to law school in Texas. He was going to go ahead and do that. And I'm like, that's interesting. He said, I can give you my LSAT, prep book if you want. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And yeah, I was winging it after that. I put no preparation into applying for law school. I just did it. I did the whole thing in like 2 weeks. Took the law school admissions test in the middle of a field exercise. I got permission to go drive to Frankfurt High School covered in mud, take the test. So yeah, opposite of preparation there. But I've been practicing law for 25 years now, so
it has all worked out.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Were you stationed in the United States anywhere? Did you go straight from graduated from West Point over to Europe, and that's where you were?
Yeah, like I said, my active career, I was a reservist for a much longer time, but my active duty career was relatively short, only just about 3.5 years. But the first 6 months after the academy were Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because it takes a good amount of time to train a field artilleryman. There's a lot of math. So 6 months, I love that too. It's near Norman, Oklahoma, southernish Oklahoma, Fort Sill. I had never lived that far west. I've never seen bison roaming around on my daily commute and prairie dogs and stuff. And I love that. Beautiful place. So yeah, that was the only place other than I was stationed at Fort Sill and then Berlin, and that was it.
My freshman year roommate at Auburn University was a West Point dropout. It's strange. Toby Stats, if you all remember Toby was supposed to be my roommate at Auburn. He got accepted to Auburn and was going to go. And I want to say it was late June or early July. He and I both worked at Action Sail. We were teaching sailing and hanging out with tourists. It was a blast. And he walked in and said, I'm not going to Auburn. I'm going to go to University of Florida. I went, great. I have no roommate. And it was the old, you're going to show up and you're randomly assigned somebody. And goodness, I hope you all get along. And a guy named Stuart Hudson, who's a dear friend of mine to this day, walked in and he was somewhat shell shocked. And he had just left West Point like 5 days prior. He was a cross country runner, and he said they were putting too much weight on him. I guess the basic training that first year, but he weighed like 110 pounds. I think eating a full meal probably would have put a little weight on him. So small world, but interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember small world. I remember in basic training, which they called Beast Barracks. I was in a squad with a young lady. I wish I could remember her name, who was from northern New Jersey, where I was born. She had dated my brother, and that was a very odd thing to discover while wearing battle dress uniform in the woods with your new squad mates. Yeah.
Yeah, good story. So, Chris, to your point about hijacking, the show. Listen, that's what the show is all about. People are going to see me every time we're here. They're not going to see my guest all the time. So, one of the things that I did learn, although I, did nothing in journalism, I've been watching some Yahoo sports talk radio guys and some other podcasters, and the one thing I've learned is ask good questions and get out the way. So. Whatever I do to allow for people to be good, entertaining guests and friends, that's what it is. And a lot of it, to be honest, is stuff that I would like to hear, because you'd be surprised how much stuff I'm learning about things that happened that I supposedly knew about. You
do realize there's a whole audience out there that wants to know a whole lot more about you, because I have pitched more than once that I take over the Uncle Marv broadcast. We flip seats and I interview you for an hour. And so far you have resisted that.
I'm for it.
Thank you.
Because I think that, each show I kind of reveal a nugget or two, and, let's kind of, have it flow out in drizzle mode.
So we got to wait till season 8 to really get
yeah.
The Marvin is revealed.
Yeah, I've revealed some pretty big stuff now. I've already talked about, the years of darkness a little bit. I can't, I can't dump darkness on everything right away. So, but it is interesting. I mean, so here's some of the stuff. So one of the reasons that, well, I'm not going to say one of the reasons, but part of what got me to do this, I've been thinking about doing this for actually a long time. This started way back when, my sister had her children, and we would sit around and start sharing stories, and we would talk about the possibility of my sister being in satellite and sending, her kids there. My oldest nephew is 17, but he's down here in Fort Lauderdale now, and she's got another son. His name is Isan. He's much younger, but I don't think he'll end up at satellite either. But it was interesting to hear the stories of my sisters in their experience going through satellite after me. And, of course, most of it, they were complaining, that they had to be Marvin B's sister. And I was like, why?
See?
Greg's right.
It's a long shadow, man. Speaking of shadows.
I didn't realize that, but she did have a great experience in Tallahassee when she, after she graduated from FAMU, she went to do her doctorate at Florida State. And most people don't know that I actually was supposed to go to Florida State, and I changed my mind and went to Palm Beach Atlantic down here in West Palm. But I had gotten accepted into Florida State, thought I would go there, and that's another long story, but we can talk about it. But she went there to get her doctorate. And when she was looking for an apartment, she had gone to several places, and I don't know if she was being denied or not getting answers, but somehow she came across Karen Horak, who was, I guess, looking over her application. And I don't know exactly how the conversation went, but my sister led me to believe that she didn't think she would get the apartment until she mentioned that she went to satellite. And Karen was like, oh. And she looked at the last name. She goes, is your brother Marvin? And she said, yes. And she goes, Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get you a place. And my sister was she was grateful, but then she was so flabbergasted that literally just the mention of my name got her an apartment in Tallahassee. So,
I saw Karen a few years ago in Dallas,
oh,
probably
really?
5. We both are huge music nerds, and we chase around a couple of the same bands. And in her case, Chase, I don't, but she actually follows one of the bands on the road for a couple shows every year. And they were coming through here, and I knew about it, and we got together for a little bit. It's a ton of fun.
All right, nice. I've driven by her place when she had the realty in Satellite Beach still. I never stopped in. I just took pictures and said hi as I went.
Sniper.
That's pretty much it. So yeah, so a lot of it is just, this is my time to get in touch with people. And remember, I was way too busy in high school to appreciate the friendships and people that I knew. I was, sorry to Craig for taking his internship away. I was doing so much and, in all the sports and student government and,
Yeah, but to your point though, Marvin, and it's probably this way everywhere. I'm just too naive to believe that it is. I think we had a pretty special group of people that we went to school with. I mean, when Craig and I had lunch, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. I hadn't laid eyes on him, for more than 5 minutes in 20 years, and we picked up like that. I mean, it was like no time had evaporated, and that's not. I mean, it's any of us. I've had the good fortune. I had a beer with Kelly and Dan a handful of years ago in Fort Worth, and the same thing. It's just a remarkable group of people. I'm sure everybody'd say their high school is that way, but I think it was a special, close-knit group for whatever reason.
Well, Satellite Beach is a unique place. I don't know that I recognized it enough when I was a kid. And it's you mentioned my parents' house. They're still in that house, and you're correct. They built it themselves. I pounded a bunch of nails myself, and it's extraordinary the feeling that you get from that. Because I went and talked to them recently about possibly buying that house myself. Because I suddenly had the thought that I don't know, kind of want to keep it in the family. But that's neither here nor there. Satellite Beach, we watched that little community grow. It was truly a sleepy place, where the kids could bonfire on the beach or hang out on the causeway, and nobody bothered anybody. And every once in a while, a giant machine would lift off right over there into the sky and into space, and you'd wake up in the morning, oh, there's the U-2 going off to look at Cuba or whatever. So, the combination between NASA, the Air Force Base, and just living on this little island, it is a unique place, and I think that contributes to a bond. I think because it wasn't a generic high school experience. It was kind of pretty cool, and we share that.
We do, and you had the folks that had been there forever and a day, like myself, and then there were the transients that were there for a few years because of Patrick. I was talking to Mr. Powell, Steven's dad, not too long ago. I snuck in to see him last fall. 91 years old, by the way, and still lives alone, and is for 91 years old is pretty spectacular. They've lived in that house, I want to say 53 years. It's just, I think that's when we were born, 52, 53 years ago for most of us. It just floors me. And the house still looks exactly the same, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is it still 94% structural nicotine?
No. That's funny. Mr. Powell actually quit smoking probably 25 years ago.
I slept over with Steve a bunch of times. We'd have sleepovers all the time, and they were the loveliest folks. They really were. They were just kind to Steve's friends, and I enjoyed them. But I do remember the smell of smoke in that house.
There is still a cooler of beer near Mr. Powell wherever he is, and he's always willing to open it up and share one. So that hasn't changed a bit. But yeah, the smoking's long gone.
So I had a point I was going to make about Satellite Beach, but since we're talking about the Powells, let me ask you guys a question, because the wife has asked me this many times, and the way that she asked me is, how were you friends with those smart people like Steve? But it really is there anybody that Stephen and the Powells weren't friends with? Because it seems like everybody has been to their house.
It was
That's
just
a
such a
good
welcoming
question.
house. It is because you'll remember Stephen was a hemophiliac, so there were large periods of time where he couldn't go to school. I mean, it's so different for hemophiliacs now. His nephew Corey is a hemophiliac, and he's in
Mm.
perfect health compared to what Stephen went through.
Right.
Because Stephen would bump his knee, be in a wheelchair, and he couldn't go to school. I mean,
Yep.
it just wasn't feasible. So people would come to him to check on him, and it was just a fun place. He had every video game known to man, which back then was Pong. But there was always Cokes in the fridge and popcorn around. It was a fun place to be, and his older sisters were a blast. It was just fun. But no, to your point, I don't think there was anybody that wasn't friends with Stephen. I don't think he had a whole lot of enemies.
Yeah. Can I take a stab at answering your wife's question though? Because I've always marveled at this, and I said earlier that I was the new guy, and I felt like the new guy until I graduated and went to college. I can't stress enough how much confidence I lacked in junior high and high school, but that's neither here nor there. I've always marveled at in the course of a week. I'd be tearing apart a radio and putting it back together and hanging out at Radio Shack on A1A with one of my friends. I'd be playing Dungeons and Dragons with some other friends. Then I'd put on the Letterman's jacket and be the jock and hang out with people on the football team. And then I felt like, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if people would have a different memory. I felt like it was easy to be friends with a diverse range of personalities. At least that was my experience. That's what I would tell your wife.
Well, I can tell you it was mine for sure, because I was one of those people that should have been a transient. My dad was in the Air Force, and we came to Patrick in '76. And if my parents had not divorced, I would have been gone.
Mm.
And my time at Satellite would have been over. But when my parents divorced and Mom asked me, do you want to stay here or move back to Louisiana, which is where my, her side of the family was, I said, no, I want to stay here. I have friends here, which was hard to say because I had, been accustomed to moving every 3 to 4 years before that. So Delora, was probably, I think, let's see, 6. So I probably would have been gone after the 7th grade in Delora had my family stayed together. But I don't think that there was a time that I didn't feel a part of Satellite Beach, outside of being told that, Nino Frederico was better than me and everything.
That's a great episode, by the way.
So yeah, it was.
So Nino was your Marvin.
Yeah, but back then, here's the thing. Remember, when I first got there, it wasn't like Black people were part of the normal group. At least that was my perception. And I could be very, very wrong. But by the time I left, there was a lot more of us, so it was easier. Verben Catchings had come in. He was another sports star. He was likable. Everybody liked him. Tony Scott. There were some others that were there that, in the beginning, I felt alone in that respect. Although, my family, we didn't grow up thinking that, blacks and whites should be separated or anything like that. My family had no problem telling me, go hang out, be friends with whoever you want to be, date who you want to date. And there was no issues, but it was something that kind of did stick out to me that Satellite Beach was the white retirement neighborhood when I first got there. Obviously it's not now. And the diversity, I don't think was really ever an issue. I think the biggest issue was the jocks and the surfers.
I don't ever remember the knife fight breaking out though between the jocks and the surfers. But I don't. That's a flippant response to what you just described. I do not know what that's like. All I know is that glad to have had you in my life, and you're a good friend.
All right. Chris, I can't.
This is where you hijack the show.
Glasses there. I've been trying to. The glare on your glasses is making it hard to.
There. Is that better? It makes my forehead feel just gigantic. But
Yeah, suntan there. What's up? You look a little red.
I did little sun. I said it's weather's been good here lately. I've spent a lot of time when you're quarantined to the bedroom and the patio. You spend a lot of time outside. So a little bit of golf here and there. It's not bad. A little bit of sun.
Oh, you are golfing.
Yeah, I am. I'm playing a little bit of golf these days.
Oh.
I am. I enjoy COVID golf. I mean, the one player per cart. Just everything goes quicker. I am a big fan of COVID golf.
I can't pull that off right now. The wife would not. I don't think she would allow that.
For fear of COVID, or just because she doesn't want you to leave her side?
No, I think it's the fact if you're going to spend that much time, recreationally, we should spend it together. So, even during Rona, business has still been pretty good. So it's not like I've got a ton of free time. So even today, she was trying to figure out, okay, got the podcast, Florida State's on at 3:30. What free time do we have today? And I'm like, I don't know. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that she'll be gone the next 2 weekends. So, so she'll get all of Sunday.
And Army's on today at 1:30. Army actually had a game last week. So for me, the college football started last week. Good game.
I was trying to figure that out because, I don't really care about anybody but Florida State. So I just heard that some other teams had played. I saw that
my wife, Tiffany, is very excited about the new Seminoles coach and is looking forward to seeing his inaugural game today.
Oh.
Craig, when you went to law school, were there other satellite high people there that you connected with? I know there were several people that went to grad school or are they too far gone because you've done your Army?
No. There were, I can't make this up. First class, the first day of law school. I sit in the back row, as is my custom, and there's two gentlemen sitting next to me. And I'm just, I look at them, and I look again, and I look at the ring on these guys' fingers, and I just said, "Is that a West Point ring?" Anyway. So my two friends in law school were guys that I tangentially knew in college. That they were the first people I met on the first class of the first day. I just realized now there's a pattern, but no, I didn't run into any satellite people there.
Yeah, when I went to Auburn, part of the reason that I left is like a lot of people, I sort of wanted to start over. The Becky-rism component was real. There was something there to that. She was a year younger than us. But when I got to Auburn, the only people that I knew from high school were Teresa Bender and Chris Sturhan. Peter Hillman showed up, but he showed up a couple of years later, and I rarely ran into him. But as you would imagine, with both Miss Sturhan and Miss Bender, they both joined sororities and were both very popular and both dismissed of me very quickly. But I do talk to Teresa every once in a blue moon. But there were very few people at Auburn from Satellite High. It felt like everybody was going to UF and FSU. I mean, I used to go visit Karen and Susan and Toby a few times at University of Florida, and we'd run into everybody and their brother, which was a lot of fun.
I will freely admit that I when I went to college 1,200 miles away from home, in a lot of ways, I'm like, I'm an adult now. I'm going that way. And I didn't give, Satellite Beach and, the old folks and the old mates as much thought as I probably should have. I just got really, really busy. So, I like to hear about people who have kept up connections. I wish I'd done better at that. I'm better at it with college people. We get together regularly, and I enjoy that.
So the fact that, Craig, you just mentioned that leaving and not giving it a second thought, because that's kind of what I did. And I don't think it was intentional, but I think,
right.
In our day, that was expected. Kids grow up, they graduate, go off and start their life. There was a study out I don't know if it was earlier this week or last week, where they talked about kids moving back in with their parents is at an all-time high. And apparently the 70s or 60s or 70s was the last time it was that high, and then it kind of dropped off. And when the wife and I were talking about it, my thought was, from my perspective, when we graduated, we left. There was no thought of going back home. There was no thought of living with the parents unless, it was an emergency. Whereas today, kids are like, yeah, I'll go to college. I'll move back home until I figure out what I want to do.
Kids don't even want to get driver's licenses now. I mean, we had 16 years old. I think I was sitting at the Department of Motor Vehicles at 7:00 when they opened up, ready to get my license so I could go drive around in that really cool 1979 Dodge Aspen station wagon. I was ready to roll.
Yeah. Yeah. And you nailed it, Marvin. You're absolutely right. And you said it better than I tried to describe it. When it was time to leave and go to college, it was, childhood's over. Got time to go.
Yeah. It was funny. I got my license. I had a moped, Chris. I couldn't, we didn't have a car. My mom wouldn't let me, take the car, but I had a moped. But I did get it because when it came time for prom, I wanted to be able to drive my date to prom and not have her drive me.
Who was your date for prom?
Which year?
Okay. Senior year.
Hang on. Okay. Senior year was Cindy Fernandez.
Very good.
Junior year was, I got to remember. So with sisters, I messed it up the last time. Wendy Sabayan. And sophomore year, actually, Linda Tucker asked me.
Wow. I think you did 2 more proms than I did. I think I just did the senior prom.
All right. Who was yours? Was
Becky Rusin.
Becky then?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we started a I don't know, 3 or 4 year romance that started in January of 1985, right after I got back from Christmas break.
Okay, I was thinking that was about the time it started, but I couldn't remember if it was before or after the picnic tables on the roof.
Probably after the picnic tables. So there's got to be pictures that exist somewhere.
I don't think we have pictures.
No, maybe not.
There's a whole there's a whole storyline there between picnic tables on the roof, Amy Wellman's bike on the roof.
I see Karen Lorenz said she went to prom with Toby Stats. I'd forgotten about that. Nope.
Karen went with Toby?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Becky Brunette said, I remember when Linda asked you. Oh, did she do it in public? That would be something. I probably had to say yes because I didn't want to say no in public.
It'd be a heartbreaker.
No, I think I liked Linda Tucker. I don't think I was expecting to be asked to go to a dance, though.
Yeah, and Becky that's true. I went to homecoming with Becky Strong our senior year.
Husky Strong.
The funny thing about that is, and Becky, I still have this picture if you don't. I was supposed to work that day at Action Sale, and I played hooky allegedly to get ready for homecoming. Went to a carnival. Someone took Becky and my picture and ended up in the newspaper the next day, and I got busted at work. It all worked out. I don't guess I was destined to be a sailing instructor.
Nice. Karen just wrote, Linda Tucker was a sweetheart. So here's a question. I don't remember when I started looking, and of course, I'll have to be honest and say I didn't look really hard, but I did try to reach out and find Linda Tucker a while back. Is she around? Does anybody know where Linda Tucker is? There's a whole group of people. I'm going to make a list someday. And part of this show is to say, here are all the people I want to try to find and reach out to. So
Marvin, have you encountered anyone who did not want to be found once you succeeded in finding?
So I have to say yes, but I have to say yes in 2 different ways. One person actually messaged me specifically just to catch up and talk, but they're doing work that, let's just say, if I told people what they did, they would probably kill me.
Okay.
And that's for real.
I'm a lawyer. I have these conversations every day. So
yeah, so they're doing stuff where people can't know who and where they are. So I did get that, and then I've had a couple people that it's not that they don't want to be found; it's that they don't want to come on a show like this and be seen. So I've had a few of that, but no, nobody that I found that literally said, "Hey, stop calling me jerk" or anything like that.
that's good.
And I'm reading the news about Linda, and I am sorry to hear that. Linda passed away several years ago. I did not know.
Mm.
Well, so I will reach out to people off air and follow up with that. Speaking of people that have passed, I know that there's a Facebook group I'm in of people we miss. When was the last time something was done with memory for Ellen Marcus? Remember?
That's just been within the last 5 years as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Because she came to the reunion 5 years ago.
Yep.
And she lived in Houston as well, because we had talked about grabbing lunch or something, and I never made it happen. I regret that.
So here I found here we go. In loving memory of our beautiful friend Ellen Marcus. So the group is still active on the Facebook. And okay. Well, people are still posting in there. So
yeah.
If people want to go back there, and if there are others that we did not know about, let me know, because that's part of the reason I'm doing this show, is to kind of find out what's been going on. Although this is, I think I can post this. Gretchen Kamer shared a link saying, "Hi, Ellen Marcus. No specific reason, but was thinking of you today. I miss you." And it's basically a picture of, it's a meme of two cats, one licking the other. And I can't maximize it to share just that, so I don't want to share the rest of this stuff. So that was the last post in the Facebook group for Ellen Marcus. Oh, I have a message from Carol McKenna. Here's what happens. I messaged her like 2 weeks ago, and she just responded. And I won't embarrass her because it's a long text, and I'll read it later.
Craig, do you get back to Satellite Beach to see your folks regularly? You mentioned a couple of times they still live in that same house, which I can never find, by the way. I remember the general neck of the woods just past DeSoto, but I can never find it when I go through there.
Well, I'm not going to dox my parents since this is public, but it's on Cherry Drive, off Temple. It's interesting that I was born in New Jersey, and we moved a month before I turned 12 to Satellite Beach, which is one of the best things that ever happened to me. And within 3 years, I had 2 sets of aunts and uncles living within 3 blocks of me from New Jersey. Everybody just sort of followed. And your question, my parents are like most of us are demonstrably older than they were when we last hung out with each other. So I'm over there more often than I had been in the past. And so, I get over to Satellite Beach and bring Grant, my younger, and my wife Tiffany tend to come with me. Grant jumps in the pool, and Tiffany helps my dad deal with his diet because she does keto, and my dad's dealing with diabetic issues. So probably more information than you needed. But when I get over there, it's generally kind of in and out. I see my parents, and then drive the hour back home. Although I try I try to do the loop. I'll come in and take A1A down to the house so I can show the family the ocean and what that's all about, and the fact that Taco Bell was always Taco Bell, and that McDonald's was always McDonald's. Um, and then we take South Patrick back on the way out so to see that part of town. I always hit double togies though. I try not to miss that. For some reason, that just I have to do that. But yeah, we're I'm sorry, Chris.
I typically get back about once a year to check in on Mr. Powell, but I duck in and duck back out in about 48 hours. It's usually real quick.
Yeah. So both my brothers still live in Brevard County, not in Satellite Beach. So I'm the one who's far away. We came actually my wife Tiffany and I met in Tallahassee. She had been there to get her master's in social work, and we met in 1998, and we're married less than 6 months later.
Wow.
Yeah, and she puts up with a lot from me because she was a young woman who was already a homeowner and very accomplished and had a great job up there in the Panhandle. And one day I just sort of announced that it's too difficult. I'm missing too much of Dylan, my first son's just activities, soccer games and stuff, because I'd see him on weekends, but it was a 5-hour one-way trip every weekend. So I said, I'm not going to move back to Satellite Beach because you can never go home again, right? But I said we'll move to Orlando, and we'll raise the kid with the theme parks and all. So I did. I took the first legal job I could find. And my wife very graciously, moved and followed me down here. And the intention was when Dylan graduated high school, that then we'd find the next chapter of our lives. Well, that was quite a while ago. So we've been here 20 years in Orlando. It's been great, but I can say we are looking for our next chapter too. I've got, I have no idea what will come of it, but I've got my first job interview in 18 years coming up in about a week and a half with the Supreme Court for a staff attorney job in South Dakota.
Wow.
So we'll see how that goes.
South Dakota?
Well, you want to talk about a change in everything.
Yeah. What in
people live in South Dakota? Is there anybody there?
It's a wonderful place.
Dave Letterman hangs out now. I mean,
where who hangs out?
Dave Letterman, isn't he up there someplace?
I think he is.
I have no idea.
Open country, open sky. I've been through there. I've been through Bismarck in the Dakotas. Yeah, it's desolate.
Okay, why would you go through there? And where were you going that was a through point?
That's a great question. It was an airport on the way to somewhere, and I'd be fibbing if I couldn't begin to recall. I've been fortunate enough. I've gotten to do a lot of travel with my career, and I don't have any earthly idea why I was going through there, but on the way somewhere.
All right, because so I had spent time in Topeka, Kansas, but that was because my dad was stationed there. And the other places that I've been out west have been, of course, Denver, Colorado, a couple of conferences. Mm-hmm. I was in California, but I was a kid, so I don't remember that. And I flew to Lincoln, Nebraska once, which was a mistake, and I'll never do again. And
my little sister was born in Nebraska. That's where we lived right before we moved to Satellite Beach.
Really?
Yeah, Dad was at he always called it Awful Air Force Base. I think it was Offutt Air Force Base. And then that's how we got to Patrick. And then his option year came up when we were in 6th grade. And my mother said, "You can do whatever you want, but I'm staying in Satellite Beach." So he opted to get out. That's how we ended up staying.
Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen. So we've gone just over an hour, and I know Craig is itching to get all
Oh.
ready for that football game. So let's go ahead and start ending off the show. Of course, we will ask you back again, Craig, and we can talk some more about stuff. I can ask you more specific questions about how I was in your way of your goal.
Oh, stop it! You're gonna make me feel bad. I meant it as very much a compliment.
I know, but it's funny because of course, I don't remember that, and it was never my intent to intentionally do stuff like that. But here's the thing: remember, I said a lot of this show is going to be me hearing stories. And a lot of those stories are going to be perceptions of how things happened back then. Because, listen, I heard 2 weeks ago that one of my sister's friends, I've got to, you know what? Let me rephrase. Let me go back and get the real story so I don't mess it up. But I'll give you
good idea then.
I'll give you the punchline. Apparently, I was supposed to be married to somebody from Satellite, and I didn't know it. So I'll go back and find out all the details. And
besides, Marvin, I owe you that I had a brief bully problem at Delora, and you solved it for me.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of the funniest memories of my life.
See, I don't remember that. What happened there?
And it's this will be like the third time I've said this on this podcast. Just because for anybody watching, you don't know what people's perceptions of you were. I was shy. I was awkward. And so if I looked in any way like I had things together, I was faking it. I was trying to play act what I thought that looked like. Anyway, I had some. I don't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade. I know it wasn't 9th, but there were some jerks who would just hassle me. And I remember one of at the lockers, somebody had accosted me. It was kind of in my face, and out of nowhere, freaking, this superhero swoops in. I swear this is true. Suddenly, all I see is Marvin B. hands on a guy's collar, pushing him up against the locker, and all you said was, "That's my friend," and over. Didn't have a bully problem after that.
Wow.
And it was dramatic and weird, and also I think you and I might have shared a little eye contact right after that. It was kind of hilarious because what I read on your face was I don't know where that came from either.
Wow, that is interesting. So
no memory of that. That's cool.
And listen, the wife will watch this later, and she's going to turn right to me and say, "How can you not remember that?"
It's true. It happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will go and try to research where that came from, how that was, and we'll go from there. So I do want to say thank you guys for coming on. Snyder, thank you for round 2.
Thank you. The pleasure is always.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking me.
And thank you to all the folks that are watching. This is pretty interesting. This is probably the first time we've had people stay the entire time. So I want to say thank you to everybody.
The goose was my mark. I'm sorry, I'm reading the Facebook stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't. And here's the thing: I don't know what she's referring to, so I didn't want to ask.
Nick Zoakis. That's what she's referring to.
Oh,
goose.
Nick the goose. I gotta. You know what? I gotta make a note of this because somebody asked me to find the goose.
He lives in Dallas Fort Worth. He lives here. I never see him. I haven't seen him.
There? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then I'm going to task you with finding him if you know he lives there.
No, I don't know that he'd answer my emails or calls. But
all right. Well, anybody that's listening to the show later or rewatching, if you can contact the goose, let me know. And just for that, I'm going to actually do this here for all things about the show. Check out unclemarv.com and you can see all of the past episodes there. You can either listen through the podcast audio, or it will have a link to the YouTube page where this will be rebroadcast, so you can find it there. And if you want to check out the rest of the site, we are going to be working on it. I am going to be putting up some pictures and archives and things like that. If you would like to get the book that was published by Todd, The Overcomer Shoemaker, that is there for purchase on Amazon, along with the way that if you'd like for me to be able to pay for things that we do on the show, the streaming that we do, all of the materials that I do here, I'm trying to run it through the business, but I'd like to keep it separate. So at some point, if you guys feel like you can give a little bit of donation, any amount, I don't really care. Just something would be nice. So check out unclemarv.com in the future. All right, gentlemen, thank you again. Craig, you had about 5 minutes to go get ready for that game. And
Timing's impeccable. Thank you. Go on. I love this. I enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me.
all right, guys, take care. And everybody out there, be looking soon for another episode of the Uncle Marv podcast. But until then, holla.